The Iraq War was fought to defend the petrodollar. Afghanistan probably as well, probably the drug trade. The Desert Storm conflict, similar. Again, oil, probably the drug trade. The Ukraine war now is being fought to launder money for elites in the West. I'm reading a little bit from Michelle Weekly, who's flown all over the world, been in the belly of the beast. We interviewed her on our show as well about her experiences going all around the world, seeing the World Economic Forum, seeing some of these things from the inside. She says, don't underestimate the lengths they'll go to. And if the last 3 years weren't an indicator of how far and how the lengths that the ruling class at the top will go to, then I think we need to have another conversation. She says, convert your fiat, your debt-based currency, into Bitcoin, an equity-based just system, while it's easy to do so. Go follow her on Twitter. She's an amazing follow and has amazing insight. And the other one is from Alex Stancic. Defund the military-industrial complex with Bitcoin. Put a stop to endless wars, needless bloodshed, and destruction of human lives to enrich the lizards. And I think that Bitcoiners get it. But I think people are getting it in general. Cameron McGregor, I just interviewed him the other day, and that interview's coming out soon. He just talked about this as well. He really feels that people get what's going on. Many people get what's going on. Most people just don't know what to do about it. And that's where Bitcoin comes in. An easy, simple, 1-second switch of decision to say, hey, I'm going to use an equity-based system now. I'm not using this debt-based system anymore. And, the crazy part is, if we all just did that, so many people fight that existing paradigm and they say, well, that can't happen. Well, government will do. We are the government, as Jeff Booth says. If we, 3% of us or 1% or 10% just said, I'm not doing this anymore, it changes. Then we get to use this system. Then we get to have the benefits of the system. And because of our perception, we all live, the world we live in is just an aggregate of all of our stories we tell ourselves, of all of our perception of life. That's it, right? You walk down the street and you look at people a certain way, or you cross the other side of the street because of the perception, the story you tell yourself about what you're seeing around you. Same with every other human being. Every single person. There's a story you're telling yourself about the currency you use, about money, about inflation, about work, about business or being an employee. Those stories you tell yourself, I'm not going to start a business because it's too hard. That's a story you're telling yourself. People do it all the time. So it might be hard, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe playing a sport or an instrument is hard for you. Maybe it's not. These are just stories you're telling yourself, though. And until we start understanding that at a real cerebral level and using our brain, the most impactful thing that's ever existed in the universe, the human brain, then we're going to have a very hard time. We're going to keep getting into needless wars. We're going to keep using a broken currency that a few people at the top playing a generational game get to keep just stealing your time, energy, and distributing it back to their posterity, their children and their great-grandchildren, and they get to keep ruling over all of us. These are paradigms that we just continue to not question. And I just had a talk this weekend with some people that I know, and they were having a hard time wrapping their head around the school system. And I was just saying, we were talking about homeschooling, and they were like, well, homeschooling, people are kind of weird. I'm like, well, yeah, who's telling you that? Like, well, they need to be socialized. Well, socialized for what? What are we socializing them for? Are we think about who's been telling us that? It's the governments, that the teachers unions. These people are the ones that have been telling us we need them to be socialized for what? In 1902, with the General Board of Education, the Rockefellers, we need doers, not thinkers. So who are we listening to? They didn't want competition. They didn't want more entrepreneurs. This was a nation of entrepreneurs. Now it's become a nation of employees. And we have people that generally, as an employee, I've been an employee and a business owner myself. And as an employee, you tend to not think as much. You tend to just kind of be more robotic and just do what you're told to do. And that's what government-run schools, formal schools that we have for 100 years, teach you to just be compliant, to pay attention, be on time. We know when you go to the bathroom. This is when you can go on vacation. This is when you can do this. Just memorize things and not ask questions, not be thinkers. As Rockefeller said, we want a nation of doers, not thinkers. So we tend to, all these stories, it messes with our paradigm, and we have these paradigms that are really getting blown up around us. We have a very hard time. We start shutting down. A lot of people start shutting down instead of being open to them. So we have to understand that, again, my opinion on the Bush family, when I was a child, I used to think they were a great family. And now, as I've learned more, I've started to, let's just say my thought patterns aren't the same when it comes to the Bush family and what we were doing, why we're in these wars, and learning about the petrodollar over the last 10 years, and the Secretary, Henry Kissinger, and how he kept us out of the world wars when we went off the gold standard, and what Lyndon Johnson was doing with the Kennedy situation, what was happening there, and how Kennedy was offed. There's all these things you start learning and understanding. Wow, things aren't the way I thought they were. They weren't the way I told them. The food pyramid is upside down. Eating breads and cereals probably isn't the best thing for me all the time. It's not better than eating natural food. It's not better than eating eggs and meat and actual things that God has put on earth for us to consume, and good proteins. Hello, so we need to start questioning these paradigms and start really understanding, start removing ourselves from the news cycle and this red and blue and fighting. It's not the red versus blue, it's the state versus you. That's the problem. It's individualism versus capitalism. That's the game we're playing right now. It's fiat green versus Bitcoin orange, a debt-based system versus an equity-based system. It's Bitcoin or slavery. Those are the choices. We have distilled down into these choices right now. So I implore you to educate yourself on sound money versus the fiat debt-based system we're in now. Please share this out. Algorithm cannot stand truth. We are our own best action towards minimizing collateral damage and making this shift smoother than it might be. Trust but verify, question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. Again, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This is freedom advice, not financial advice, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.